If you're young and just single and a mother,
You never know what God can do.
but you better believe you can make it through it. Stand up tall and pay your dues.
This is YSM. Hey, welcome back to Young Single Mothers. I'm your host Yolanda, and we are continuing on and talking about single parenting issues. So this has been inspired by this book written by Malawi's own Queen Caroline Gondwe. There are going to be details of where you can get the book in the description. But I think that this is a great manual for all parents because it's not really a book about single parenting, but there's a chapter on single parenting. So I should say that this chapter really does mostly focus on single parenting as a result of divorce. But I think there's so many things that can be learned from this chapter, even though it's kind of more focused on that section of single parents. And last week we covered the issues of, which I've already forgotten, loneliness and instilling discipline. And this week I want to start off by asking a question that, are you a single parent? Has that affected your self-esteem? Has that made you feel less confident? And this can come maybe from your own thoughts and your own ideas, but I don't blame you for feeling that way because of the judgments that come from society as a result of being a single parent, whether it's because you got knocked up, sorry, I know I like to say that a lot, or you went through a divorce. I think the ones that, don't get looked at with a bit of a side eye are perhaps single parents due to the loss of their spouse. So the low self-esteem issue is a big deal because I know that we do have family members who will say more than they need to say, and I think it's completely unnecessary. It's like, come on guys, spread love through your words and your actions. But I feel that the judgments, the words that are said by people you expect to be there for you sometimes can bring that self-doubt within you as a human being. And one of the things that Queen highlights in this book is not to let being a single parent erode your self-confidence. Again, she encourages us to engage in different activities that will help to boost our self-esteem. I'm a firm believer in books. I love to listen to podcasts. I love listening to anything that will edify me, anything that will build me up. And I've done that over the years. I've come from a place where I had a very low self-esteem when I was very young. I talked about it last season where my parents constantly compared me to my older sister, who was a phenomenal woman in her own right. And I also had issues with friendships and so many things that always made me feel less of myself. And even through my 20s, I think just the way I lived out my life, the relationship choices that I made were a reflection of that low self-esteem. And it has taken me getting into my 30s, going through so many unnecessary relationships that we'll probably talk about one day, but I don't know when, to get to a point where I have to really get to a place in me that I say, you know what, Yolanda, you deserve better. You're a valuable person. Regardless of the circumstances that you're in, you are valuable. And you need that self-talk. People, most of us have been to that place where we need to grow inside of ourselves and not expect the external things to build us up, because you won't always get that. But God bless all the amazing people that we can be surrounded by that do believe in us, that do build us up. And that's where you should aim to be. Surround yourself with people who believe in you. That's what Queen says, and I agree. You need people who believe in you, and people who do not, please put them aside and don't even feel bad about it. So another issue we need to talk about, and I love that she put this in here, it's the issue of the sense of guilt that can come from being a single parent. I know in this regard, she's talking about the single parent of a divorced family, but this can also happen when you're just a single parent and that's all you have known, is that you feel so bad that your child doesn't have the other parent, that you feel you have to overcompensate to the point that you're spoiling your child. I am a firm believer in not spoiling your children. I'm like, And I think it comes because I wasn't raised spoiled. People have the ideas of how I might have been raised because they've seen me or they know my parents. But my parents never spoiled us. And I see that through my sisters, that we're just very... I feel like we're content people. Of course, we have our desires, we have our drive, we have the goals that we want to reach in our personal lives, but we're very content people with where we're at. We're not trying to reach for certain things that just to make us feel better about who we are, because I think that our parents raised us in a manner where we're actually pretty confident in ourselves and very outspoken individuals. You have to get around us to know. But really, the biggest thing about dealing with guilt, I feel, is to have a positive outlook on life. And when I say positive, I don't mean create an illusion, because that can also be another escape. I don't think there needs to be an illusion created in order for you to better how you feel on the inside for it to come out on the outside. And one thing that I absolutely love, and at first I battled with this, I was like, ooh, okay, to what degree can I be honest with my child? But I feel like we can be honest on a lot of levels. We might leave out some details because it might be too much depending on the age of their child. But Queen says here that be honest with your children that you're having difficulties. It's okay. I think children understand that, even at their level. I've had moments where I've had to be really blatantly honest with my son, just so I could, one, help him understand the situation and where I'm at as a person. And I felt that he's really appreciated that honesty and has been able to sort of grasp things that he may not have been able to grasp otherwise. Yeah, and also in the midst of being, honest and transparent, remind them that things are going to get better. Because I think one of the things that we can do is that we beat ourselves down so much that we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm a firm believer in the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's all about perspective. So yeah, perspective change. But of course, you also need to give age-appropriate responsibilities. Don't raise your child because you're a single mom that everything needs to be done for them. My son cooks me lunch. I know, he's 11. He takes care of me, and not because it's like I expect him to take care of me, but I want him to learn responsibilities, doing laundry, cleaning, washing, all those different things that as normal human beings we're expected to do. So as he's grown older, he gets more responsibilities. Make sure you turn on the outside lights, close the windows at 5:30. Just give your children responsibility so that they don't grow up thinking that the whole world revolves around them and they never have to lift a finger because, mommy's going to take care of that. Don't do that to your child, please. But at the same time, also be very careful not to treat them like little adults. Like, I've been quite guilty of that. I think from a very young age, I expected my son to be older than he was in his thinking. And I felt guilty over the years because I think I may have pushed too much on him. I mean, he already had to grow up faster than most kids because I spent the better half of his, early years being unwell and very weak and unable to help myself. So I feel like that kind of pushed him to grow up a little quicker. And that can also have its own negative effects. So just be very careful with how much you put on your child. And here, keep a sense of humor when dealing with everyday challenges. This can be hard, let's face it. It's not easy to always smile and laugh about things, but you can get to the point where you're able to, let's just laugh it off. Seriously, if we overthink it, it is going to get us down. And one experience I want to share is, I remember my son specifically saying to me one time that, Mom, you need to laugh more. And that hit me hard. I was like, yeah, that hit me hard. I was like, yo, I need to be a pleasant person for him to be around. I want him to see me laughing. I want him to see me, rolling over with my stomach hurting from laughter, because that just makes him happy. It literally fills him with joy. So mommy, be happy, laugh with your child, play games. I know he said to me this morning, he was like, Mom, it wasn't this morning, it was yesterday. He's like, I've always wanted to teach you how to play video games. Video games these days are not like the Supersonic Brothers and Sega. I don't get video games of this time. But I sat down with him today and tried to learn, and I should do that more because I know it makes him happy. So this one is quite the obvious one, but it does need to be said that there does come a financial burden with being a single parent. But that being said, I know single moms who are out there grinding, who have got amazing jobs, that are doing their thing, taking care of their child or their children. So it is not impossible. And I think we need to fix our own mentality, and rather than think, oh, I'm just alone, I'm a single mom, I'm not educated, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. We need to focus on what can we do. Use what you have. And that's how I even started Young Single Mothers. I don't have all the equipment in the world. I record the sound on my phone. I have the tiniest camera, and even if I didn't have a camera, you could still record on your phone. Use what you have, because if I had stopped until I had everything that I felt that I should have had, I never would have started Young Single Mothers. So use what you have and just grind, go hard. Of course, it's understandable that you may not be able to afford certain luxuries. Guys, it's so important, and I love that Queen puts this in her book, that you should sit down with your children and agree with them on which luxuries, okay? I remember we're talking about divorced parents, and sometimes when mom and dads go separate ways, there's a difference in setting and issues like that. So discuss what luxuries you can let go of. And I'm a minimalist, and I barely leave my house. So I'm quite happy to condense down to bare minimum just to survive. But I feel like we don't need to put up pretenses with our children. We don't need to pretend that we have everything. I know there's some people that have the conviction of, I want my child to grow up knowing that, we can have a car or we can do this. And that's fair enough. But if you're at a hard place, I feel it blesses your child more knowing that, this is where we're at. But the biggest thing that impacts them is your attitude towards that and towards where you're at. That is going to speak far more volumes than any big, expensive gift you could ever give your child. But the fact that you have a positive attitude, an attitude of gratitude, that is going to do so much more for your child's self-esteem and confidence than you could ever imagine. So forget what you don't have. Make the most of what you do have. And that would absolutely, it will do all the work. So learn to adjust. Learn to adjust not only to the financial burdens and the financial situations being different or harder because you're a single parent, but adjust to everything that's happening. Life is always moving. I think one of the biggest gifts we can ever give ourselves is flexibility. And that being said, I'm not always the most flexible person, but when we do choose to be flexible and to adjust to the changing environment, especially as a parent, because our children are constantly changing. What they liked yesterday is not what they're going to like today. So once you get your brain to the place where it's like, okay, things are not always going to be the same. Let me always be ready to adapt to what's happening, especially in the life of your child as they grow, as their likes start to change, as they start to change, as hormones start to kick in. You have to stay on your toes, mama and daddy. You gotta stay on your toes so that your children are able to navigate life knowing that you're in the corner at all times and you're constantly making the effort to understand who they are and where they're going and who they're becoming. And that would just bless them mightily. Okay, so I could get carried away and keep talking, but I hope that you have learned a snippet or two. Go out and get this book if you can. If you're in Malawi, it is available. You can find details in the description, like I said earlier. And absolutely bless you. Another congratulations to Queen Caroline for writing this book. It's a complete blessing, and it's a very rare find in Malawian writers. So I think it's great. But I also want to say a special mention this episode to my son, who always reminds me that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be hosting Young Single Mothers. And I'm like, yes, baby, I know. But I want to say thank you to him and how he releases me to do this. and how he's just adjusting to life all the time with the different things that are happening in our lives. And yeah, he's just such a huge blessing to me, and I want to be able to appreciate him at every turn. I want to be able to, like I always encourage you, to be growing as he's growing. So thank you, Christopher, for being the best son in the world. And of course, I'm biased. All right, thanks, and have a good one.
1, 2, 3, go!
If you're young and you're single and a mother,
You never know what God can do,
you
yeah.
better believe you can make it through it. Stand up tall and pay your dues.
This is YSM.